광명운대 주변 법계 공양시방무량 불법승.
Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Those are the most famous words in Korean Buddhism. They're chanted in every temple, every morning, by monks who've memorized them since they were teenagers. Most Koreans have heard this sutra their whole lives, but have no idea what it actually means. Today, I'm taking you somewhere most tourists in Seoul will never find. A 600-year-old temple hidden in the mountains. We're going to unpack what Korean Buddhism actually is, why temples are hidden in mountains, what those golden Buddhas in the main hall represent. Listen to the four sacred sounds that ring out at dawn. Welcome back to gamjainseoul. I'm Jun, your licensed tour guide here in Seoul. Before we step inside, you need a quick crash course, because Korean Buddhism is not the same Buddhism you might know from Thailand or Japan or Tibet. Buddhism arrived in Korea in 372, brought to the kingdom of Goguryeo, traveling from former Qin China. For nearly 1,000 years afterwards, through the Three Kingdoms period, and especially the Goryeo dynasty, Buddhism was effectively the state religion. By the 11th century, there were 70 Buddhist temples in Goryeo capital alone. Today, the dominant school is the Jogye order, by far the largest traditional order, overseeing thousands of affiliated temples and most of Korea's working monastics. It's a Sun, or Zen, lineage tracing back over 1200 years. Unlike creator god religions, such as Christianity, Buddhism is not centered on a god who created the world. Instead, it begins with the Buddha, an awakened teacher who explained suffering, the mind, and the path to liberation. At its core, Buddhism begins with four fundamental truths about human suffering, the Four Noble Truths. Number 1, life involves suffering. Number 2, suffering has a cause. Desire, attachment, and clinging to what is impermanent. Number 3, suffering can end. Number 4, there is a path to end it, the Noble Eightfold Path. In other words, Buddhism teaches that suffering is part of life, but it also teaches that suffering can be understood, reduced, and ultimately transcended through practice. And that, in many ways, is the heart of Korean Buddhism too. And in Korean Buddhism, especially in the Jogye tradition, the ultimate goal is awakening. I've been hiking for a while to get to the temple. We're inside Bukhansan National Park, technically still in Seoul, but it feels like another world. This is the question I get from my tour customers. Why are Korean temples usually in the mountains? In Japan, you find temples downtown. In Thailand, on every corner. But in Korea, you have to climb. Why? For 500 years, from 1392 to 1910, Korea was ruled by the Joseon dynasty, built on Neo-Confucianism, an ideology that saw Buddhism as wasteful and politically dangerous. The early Joseon kings systematically suppressed Buddhism in order to promote Confucianism and suppress Buddhism. They confiscated temple lands. Monks were prohibited in principle from entering the capital for nearly 500 years. Urban temples were destroyed, repurposed, or abandoned. So what did the monks do? They went where the bureaucrats wouldn't follow, up into the mountains. That's why most traditional Korean temples are buried in the wilderness. It wasn't aesthetics, it was survival. 500 years of hiding shaped everything: the architecture, the silence, the food. The mountains became sanctuaries, and ironically, that hardship is what made Korean Buddhism so spiritually distinctive today. Before we enter the temple, look at this gate. This is the one-pillar gate, and it's the first gate of nearly every traditional Korean Buddhist temple. Notice something unusual. There are no walls, no doors, and no locks. Just two pillars holding a roof. You could walk around it, and a lot of foreign visitors do, without realizing they've missed the most philosophically loaded structure on the entire grounds. Here's why it's built this way. Look at it from the side. The two pillars line up perfectly into one. That's the secret. From the front, you see two pillars. From the side, you see one. The gate is teaching you something the moment you encounter it. What looks like two is actually one. That's the principle of non-duality. In Buddhist thought, the divisions we cling to, me and you, sacred and ordinary, life and death, self and other, are illusions. The deeper reality is one. The one-pillar gate is also called the gate of one mind. As you pass through it, you're symbolically asked to set aside the noise of the world, your job, your phone, your worries, and your opinions, and gather your scattered mind into a single point of focus. So here's my favorite thing about the one-pillar gate. It has no door. Nothing physically stops you. The threshold is entirely in your mind. Whether you actually crossed it depends on whether you brought your attention with you. Take a breath, walk slowly. Let's go in. When entering, the traditional gesture is to put your hands together in front of your chest and offer a small bow to show respect. This is Geumseonsa, the Temple of the Golden Hermit, sitting on the slope of Bukhansan in Seoul, just behind Gyeongbokgung Palace and the Blue House where Korean President stays. Historically, this temple is over 600 years old, but the original buildings were destroyed and rebuilt over the centuries. What you see now reflects reconstructions from 1955 onward. I want you to understand what's happening up here in this pavilion, because what you see and hear is one of the most beautiful ideas in Korean Buddhism. You see four objects: a huge drum, a massive bronze bell, a wooden fish, and a flat, cloud-shaped metal plate. These are the Four Dharma Instruments. Every traditional Korean temple has them, played at the dawn and dusk, in a specific order. Each one awakens a different category of beings. Number 1, the Dharma drum, made from cowhide, played for all four-legged land animals, to free them from ignorance. Number 2, the Brahma bell, the deep bronze bell. Its tone reaches all beings suffering in the underworlds. That boom echoing across the mountain at dawn is a wake-up call to soul in torment. Liberation is still possible. Number 3, a long fish-shaped wooden drum. Why a fish? Because fish never close their eyes, even when they sleep. The fish symbolizes the practitioner, always awake, always aware. Struck for all beings that live in water. Number 4, the cloud gong. A flat bronze plate shaped like a stylized cloud. Struck for all beings that fly, birds, insects, and souls drifting in the air between lives. Every morning and evening, Korean Buddhist temples make sounds for every being that suffers, in the ground, on the ground, in the water, and in the sky. Not just for humans, for everything. That's compassion as a daily ritual. And that, believe it or not, is the invitation. The sound clears the path, awakens every realm, and prepares you to step into the heart of the temple. To reach the main hall, you climb 108 stone steps. one for each of the 108 defilements that bind the human mind. Every step is meant to release one. This is the temple's main hall called Daejeokgwangjeon, a hall traditionally associated with Vairochana Buddha, the Buddha of ultimate truth and universal light. When entering, you should use the side doors, not the door in the middle. Make a small bow to show respect, followed by 3 bows. Here at Geumseonsa, the 3 Buddha statues are Shakyamuni, Rokhana, and Vairochana Buddha. These 3 are best understood not simply as 3 separate Buddhas, but as the 3 bodies of the Buddha, or Trikaya. In Buddhism, Trikaya means the Buddha understood in 3 dimensions: ultimate truth, perfect radiance, and earthly manifestation. That's what makes this hall so interesting. In many temples, visitors see a Buddha statue and think, that's the Buddha. But here, the message is more layered. Buddhahood is not limited to one historical person or one physical image. It can be understood as truth itself, as its transcendent body, and as its human appearance in the world. And standing in front of these 3 figures, you're not just looking at 3 statues. You're looking at a complete Buddhist theory of reality curved into physical forms. Remember the chant we opened with? Now I want to actually unpack it for you, because you'll hear it in every Korean temple, every single morning ceremony, and most tourists have no idea what's being said. It's called Panyashimgyong, the Heart Sutra. The full Sanskrit name is the Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom. It is, without exaggeration, the most chanted Buddhist scripture in East Asia. The Heart Sutra is one of the shortest Buddhist scriptures, only around 260 Chinese characters, yet it has shaped Buddhist thoughts for centuries. Its central line says, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form." That doesn't mean the world is meaningless or that nothing is real. It means that nothing stands alone. Everything is connected. Everything changes. A wave may look separate from the ocean, but it is never truly separate. It rises from the ocean, takes its shape for a moment, and returns to it. The sutra says our lives are like that too. So when monks chant the Heart Sutra, they're practicing release, letting go of fear, attachment, and ego that come from thinking, this is me, this is mine, this will last forever. In Buddhism, emptiness is not a void. It is openness. It is freedom. Now follow me up here. This is where Korean Buddhism reveals something uniquely Korean. This little shrine is the shrine of the 3 sages. In Korean temples, this shrine brings together 3 figures that did not originally come from Indian Buddhism, but were absorbed into Korean Buddhist practice over time. The mountain god, the 7 stars of Big Dipper, and the hermit sage. The first painting shows an old mountain spirit seated with a tiger beside him. That's the mountain god, one of the oldest sacred figures in Korean folk religion, associated with protection, abundance, and the spirit of the land. The second shows a celestial composition with a central sacred figure surrounded by attendants. That's the 7 stars, traditionally associated with faith, longevity, children, and protection. And the solitary white-bearded sage, seated alone in the mountain landscape, is the hermit saint, a figure of lone awakening, blessings, and quiet spiritual power. So depending on what you came to pray for, you place your offering in front of the corresponding sage and bow. This is what makes Korean Buddhism feel so layered. It isn't just Indian doctrine preserved unchanged. It's Buddhism as it was actually lived on this peninsula, meeting mountains, stars, local spirits, and ordinary human hopes. A grandmother might bow in the main hall for wisdom and liberation, then come here to pray for her family's health, her grandchild's exam, or a long life. That's not a contradiction. That's Korean Buddhism in practice. This is a part of the temple most tourists never pay attention to. It's the charnel house, where the ashes of the passed away are kept and remembered. In modern Korea, cremation is common, and for many families, a Buddhist temple offers more than storage. It offers a sacred place to return to bow, to light incense, and to speak to those they still love. And in Buddhist thought, death is not simply the end. Life moves through an endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. That's why memorial spaces like this carry such deep meaning. They're not only about grief, they are also about prayer for what comes next. In Korean Buddhism, families often hold chanting rituals and the memorial services for the deceased, especially through the 49 days after death, praying that the departed may release their attachments and be reborn in a better realm. So this building is not just a columbarium. It is a place where memory, ritual, and the hope of rebirth meet. I'm not filming inside out of respect, but standing here, you understand that this temple is not just a beautiful place to visit. It is still deeply woven into real life, real grief, and real faith. This is the Templestay house. If you've ever wanted to spend a night meditating, this is where you would do it. Geumseonsa runs different programs: meditation, 108 prostrations, singing bowl meditation. Adult overnight rates are typically around 80,000 Korean won. So what makes this temple special for Templestay? Location. You can still be in Seoul and experience all of Korean temple culture. Wake up to the mountain bird song, do walking meditation along the stream, and be back in central Seoul by lunchtime. If you want to truly meditate in the wilderness while still staying in Seoul, a temple stay at Geumseonsa is the single best answer. Link below. So form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Maybe it makes a little more sense now. Korean Buddhism isn't just a religion. It's a 1600-year-old library written in stone, wood, paint, and silence. When you visit Geumseonsa or any Korean temple, you're stepping into a living conversation between India, China, and Korea, between Buddha and shamans, between the living and the dead. If you made it this far, thank you. This kind of deep dive takes weeks to research and film, and it's only possible because of viewers like you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit the like button to help it reach more people. I'm Jun from gamjainseoul. I'll see you in the next video.